DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What's going on, FA Nation? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We got 7 games here on a Friday. Close out the work week for everybody here, James. And it is shaping up to be quite a slate if we have the injuries sort of play out the way that they may play out here this evening. We already got the Kyrie Irving news. We have Luka Doncic by himself in this matchup against Atlanta. We just got word that Trae Young is going to be available tonight for the Hawks after missing the last couple of games with his injury. Zion Williamson, a midday downgrade. Jabari Smith was a midday downgrade. Paul George was a midday downgrade as well. So could have teams without some star players tonight, some fun matchups. Overall, it's a great way to end out the week, man.
Yeah, also Clint Capella ruled in just now as well. So Hawks are going to be at full strength for the first time in a few games. So that's good to see. It's definitely an interesting matchup overall. Good slate, fun slate, lots of stars. Going to be definitely a do I need to start some scrubs, or is all this injury news lead me to a fair and balanced lineup?
Right.
I think that's going to be a hotly debated topic. So I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the early ownership run, we'll have that updated for you, obviously as it comes through. But this morning, Luka Doncic, third highest projected roster player on the slate. So many people were getting the Luka here today. So they weren't shying away, from his price tag, obviously, and then, gets solidified with the Kyrie Irving news there. Just everybody knows what he's capable of doing. That matchup here, Atlanta went from a 1.5 point home underdog to now a 1.5 point home favorite. 246 total now, up from 243. So that one's looking to be a banger. Houston, Charlotte, 223 game total in that one. The Hornets are getting 5.5 as a home underdog. Phoenix versus Indiana. Pacers are getting 5 at home as an underdog. That one's got a 243.5 game total. Clippers, Raptors. Raptors getting 7.5 at home there. That's a 236 game total. 7:30 start time. We'll hopefully know the Paul George news sooner rather than later. Orlando, Memphis. Memphis getting 6 at home. That one's down to a 212.5 game total. Pretty gross there. Cleveland, Milwaukee. The Bucks are giving 5.5 at home. It's a 239 total in that one. And then our late night hammer, 8 p.m. also time slot. Thunder, Pelicans. Pelicans now getting 1.5 after being a 2-point home favorite to open. That's to do a 239 game total here.
Late night hammer in quotations, obviously.
Yeah,
three games at 8 p.m. Should be a fun slate. Not much to add to the totals and spreads.
Alrighty, appreciate you all tuning in here. Dez is in the chat. Scott's in the chat as well. I see through you and Cam the man. Harrison Barnes did continue to shock the world last night. 39, I think it was last night. Man can shoot. The man can shoot the basketball. Loved his post-game comments, basically being like, listen, I just work within the offense. Some night I'll go down and play 5 minutes. The ball won't find me. Someday I'll go down in 5 minutes. I'll take 8 shots. So gotta love Harrison Barnes understanding team basketball, not playing but Kings are going to be dangerous if they got a guy that can just drop 40 whenever he feels like it as well here, seemingly. So definitely happy to have all you all in chat. If you haven't already liked today's show, do so. If you haven't subscribed already, do that as well. Albert, hello to you as well. Does the line movement mean no Zion tonight? Well, a couple of things. James and I, we were also a little skeptical. The Thunder, generally a team that, covers spreads, could certainly take them bets on the road. But I would assume, given the 3-point movement there, that there's some expectation Zion Williamson won't suit up tonight. Now, he could move in. That line moves back to even. This game should have always probably been closer to a pick'em as it is. So I'm not really too surprised by the live movement here, but definitely could have a little bit something to do with it there, Justin.
So Zion was, I'm trying to match the time of the line movement because it shifted. Zion was deemed questionable at 2:30. At 2:37, the line moved from plus 1.5 to minus 1.5. So 7 minutes after Zion was listed.
Yeah,
Also, front end of a back-to-back for New Orleans tonight.
Yeah, there's quite a few teams on the front end of back-to-back here on this slate tonight. So definitely could have a little bit to do with it. And as Cam the Man's pointing out, the Murphy price seems cheap. So does the Herb Jones price tonight. Jordan Hawkins is a guy we've seen get bumps when guys have been out of the lineup. So there's definitely some value. Larry Nance, a value play as well for the Pelicans tonight. So certainly can get some cheap guys if Zion ends up being out for that rotation here. But let's just get to it. Down in it, top price overall players on the slate: Luka, Giannis, SGA up over 10K. Obviously, Luka's getting a lot of the initial ownership run here at 11.3, SGA at 10.1. Then in the 9K tier, you have Ball, Mitchell, Young, Booker. Where does Trae Young now fit in this group for you after Luka Doncic?
Probably after Mitchell and SGA and before LaMelo. I think LaMelo of the 9K tier is my least likely spend up of the group. I probably put him in front of Devin Booker, but like that might also be kind of stupid considering Phoenix has had 240 plus games from Durant and 240 plus games from Booker over the last 4. So like it's the Booker and Durant show as of right now.
Yep.
So probably Trae. It's a concussion. We don't know how the symptoms.
Sure.
He's obviously cleared and is cleared to play and seems like he'll be good to go. And we see this in the NFL all the time where it's actually like more contact, obviously, and people are fine after concussions. Obviously something to monitor. Really good game environment, obviously. So
yeah,
I probably rank him after.
So he's 4 for you?
So yeah, 4 or 5, depending on how you rank him and Booker.
Okay. Again, obviously Luka Doncic is our top guy in that grouping. Anyone else you want to specifically highlight?
I mean, SGA had a really good game against Herb. No, I shouldn't say really good game. Herb was in foul trouble early in that game and did play 30 minutes, but that is something that SGA does to a lot of people. When you look, I mean, SGA has taken 12, 17, 13, 17 free throws in the last 4 games. Yeah. Herb Jones, as great, and I mean great as a defender as he can be, is also aggressive, right? So the matchup. Everyone knows it's Herb Jones guarding SGA from start to finish, as long as Herb's not in foul trouble, or So I a little skeptical about the Herb. It's just hard to guard people in the NBA at the end of the day, right? Like SGA is just impossible to guard.
He only had 5 free throws in that game against them, but for sure. In that 8K range, Lillard here at 89. DeJounte now obviously takes a little bit of a bump back with Trae Young. Scotty Barnes is you told me reportedly Scotty Barnes is going to be the starting point guard here tonight. I guess we'll see what that lineup ends up looking like. Maybe Bruce Brown enters the lineup or Trent enters the lineup, but we'll see. I liked James Harden before the Paul George news. James Harden now gets definitely a bump for me with the Paul George news.
Yeah, I think that's my internal struggle with, like, if we find out George is out, we find out Zion's out, that would be my problem getting to Luka, because then we have a core of, like, I'm playing Sengun, so Sengun, Harden,
McConnell.
McCollum, and you're like, those are 3 guys that can get you 50 tonight. And like, I'm not saying Luka can't. Obviously, I mean, Luka can go for a 90-minute.
He can go for 100 if he wants to. Yeah.
He also severely turned his ankle last game and was able to finish, but like, dude, he's been getting hurt a lot of late, and like, wear and tear over a while is something to monitor. So like, that would be my struggle. And Harden's played 39, 38, 41. Dude, their offense is amazing. Like, the Clippers are as good as any team in the league right now.
Yep.
Point blank, as good as anyone. And it's because they're playing off James Harden. Like, as Kawhi has been great, Paul George has been great, everyone's really been great. But Harden's playing point guard and just operating, and
I mean, the assist totals are awesome for him, right? Hasn't had less than 8 assists in a month. Like that's something to really harp on. And then the scoring can be there whenever they need him to. And Paul George isn't going to play today and they go with like Amir Coffey starting, like you're going to see James Harden definitely be a bit more of an offensive first play this evening. So I was in on that. I also like Fred VanVleet here at $7,700, but the news for Zion obviously now just moves me down to McCollum for a little bit cheaper. If Zion was to end up playing, I probably move back to VanVleet here at 77. That said, I think all three of these guards here are worthy of your player pool tonight.
Yeah, I mean, VanVleet dealing with a downgrade too. Jabari Smith was off the injury report, and now I would say, like, with almost certainty, Jabari Smith doesn't play, like, hasn't played the last 2 games and then is downgraded again. Like, that just feels like gonna give him another day off because the ankle type situation. And Van Vliet is gonna be asked to burden more of the offensive role in what's his name, in Jabari Smith's steed. So yeah, I think all three of those guys are elite plays. Quite a quick hat tip to Scotty Barnes, as you mentioned. Obviously we don't know if that's true what Darko said. He could have a change of heart and be like, actually I want to play a actual.
Well, he thinks Scotty Barnes is the face of the league, so
he does think Scotty Barnes is the face of the league. If that is the case and he starts at point guard, I mean, Trent's starting already. I think it's just an easy insert Bruce Brown into the starting lineup. But Bruce Brown's minutes have kind of been crap. And I wonder if that's like just trying to keep him healthy before next week and a half is away from the deadline, right?
Yeah, 100%. I like Harden over VanVleet tonight on FanDuel. If they're both out, what do you think?
Same.
Happy to have you in here, KT. Again, you guys haven't liked the stream already, do so. Happy to answer your questions. Throw them in the chat. We'll pop them up on screen. We'll get them down for you, whether it be DraftKings or FanDuel, or if you're playing somewhere else, we can do that for you as well. We do prop picks as well. If you have any picks or questions for props today, throw them in the chat. We'll break some of those down for all of you this evening. Working our way down list under 7K. Does Westbrook become any more appealing if Paul George is out tonight? He is $6,100.
I think he's live to be a part of a small ball lineup to begin with. Just given how Toronto runs their lines. I mean, Jonte Porter played 6 minutes last game, and then Thad Young played 26. We know Thad Young is already kind of undersized at the 5, so the Clippers would not be really mismatched at all, and they do it regardless of matchup, right? Like they don't care necessarily. So Westbrook is definitely, I think, already on my radar with the Paul George news, firmly that way as well. Would love to see the 31 and 29 minutes more so than the 18 minutes, which is why you can only play him in tournaments. I think that's like a kind of like set in stone. Like unless he were to like enter the starting lineup, which you said Amir Coffey, and that's who I would expect starts.
Yep, agreed. Thoughts on anybody else down here? Green, Giddey, Exum, Nembhard, Schroeder, McConnell, Fultz, your rest of your 5K range.
Probably Schroeder and Nembhard would be the two guys that I have interest in. We saw the matchup for Nembhard against Phoenix the other day, and he was fine. They also just didn't play TJ McConnell. They started him and played 12 minutes, and then Rick Carlisle made comments after the game like, yeah, not a great matchup for TJ. He's just too small. And he didn't grow. So,
right.
I expect Nembhard's minutes to continue to kind of rise the way they have, 27, 29 minutes the last 2 games. He kind of lost out on some minutes last night because they basically blew Philly out.
Yeah.
And, their backups made it a 12-point game, but we didn't see Embiid or Maxey in the fourth quarter last night. So I like Nembhard in tournaments, 5,200. Again, like close spread for the ringer of a schedule for Indiana, who 4.5 at home. Yeah, I mean they've played Denver really tough at home, blew Philly outright yesterday, and now 4.5 point spread against the Phoenix Suns, who've won 7 in a row and are linked to your boy Miles Bridges, which is going to be such a fun thing for the rest of the league. So yeah, because he's only making $10 million this year, and he has no trade clause to any team he wants. So anyways, so Nembhard, and then I do wonder like how the Schroeder minutes play out if he doesn't start. Now, he
could play 20, he could play 30, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, look, I do think there's obvious, like, we're limiting Bruce Brown right now because we want to trade him, right? I think because I think you and I both agree if Bruce Brown were not on the trade block, he would not be
Yeah.
playing 20 minutes for the Toronto Raptors. He'd
Right.
probably be playing starter complement of minutes, just with the way he is as a basketball player. But if Bruce Brown starts, that doesn't mean Shooter won't come off the bench and play 30 minutes because we've seen that plenty. And Toronto is already going small. They could, if the Clippers go small, they could just also match them and go Barnes and Barrett in the front court, and you get Schroeder, Trent, and Bruce Brown to space the floor, right? So I don't think there's a scenario where Schroeder doesn't see high 20s, low 30s minutes, regardless if he starts or not. But I'm not surprised either way if Darko decides like, yeah, I'm not going to start him or I'm going to start
They
him.
just have a lot of wings and they have a lot of guys that can play the
Yes.
point. So that's kind of the downside, to that for Schroeder here. Fultz at 5K, I'm fine going to. Again, I know the Memphis totals 212, so you kind of, not the most appealing, but the price tag's not terrible for him here. And then I'll throw some dart throws at Jordan Hawkins at 38. We've seen him have success when some guys have been out of the rotation before. We know he doesn't need a lot of time to do a lot of damage either. 17 minutes, 5 of 11, gets you 18 fantasy points. He's popped off for more than less than that in the past. So for low value play, I'm happy to go there. Dwayne, happy to have you in the chat, my guy. Yeah, listen, yesterday was kind of a weird day, right? The chalk just really didn't come through. The Joker was well on its way. They just lost by 40. And Embiid had his down day, still went for like 31 and whatever it was, right? So
and then Utah was just
and Utah played 13 guys. Will Hardy saw what the chalk was looking like that day. Like, oh, you think 6 straight Utah Jazz are going to be our chalk plays here today? I say no, sir, to that. And they rested for whatever reason. Sexton, Dunn, and Fontecchio in that game. So super frustrating to see that be the way. But right now we're looking like Luka Doncic being the guy there for sure. Precious, 2 real points out of for him yesterday. That was, I didn't have much expectations for Precious Achiuwa in that game, even though they won big. Shooting guard position. We talked Booker a little bit already. DeJounte here. We were wishy-washy on Brandon Ingram based off the usage rates and fantasy point per minute production when everybody was on the floor. You take Zion off the floor, though, and Brandon Ingram probably worthy of being the cover of the show today.
Yeah. And I went a step further because I wanted to put him and McCollum on the floor together.
Yeah.
28% usage rate leads the team, 1.2 fantasy points per minute. That's slightly behind Larry Nance, but Ingram's played 200 more minutes than Larry Nance. So, no problem getting to Ingram. We said he was too cheap to begin with. The Pelicans have just been really underpriced for a month now, and I get why, because there's it's like the Bulls conundrum where there's 3 to 4 guys every slate that's in the 7K tier, and you never know who's going to be the good one on night. But when one of those players are removed, well, the other 2 just are fantastic. Can both eat. So I'd have no issue getting to both either. Just building multiple lineups, using one, using the other, whatever variation of if and when Zion's ruled out. If you want to play Ingram has the better eligibility than McCollum, right? Yeah. McCollum's cheaper, but shooting guard small forward is as good as it gets for Ingram.
How are you handling with RJ Barrett tonight? $7,100 price is obviously on the rise for him. He does have the shooting guard small forward eligibility as well. Does the Zion news now maybe take you off of RJ, where we were kind of higher on him earlier today?
I think you'll be able to, if Zion is ultimately ruled out, I think you'll definitely have a nice contrarian play in RJ Barrett. It's not like the production for Barrett has gone anywhere, right? There's no, at the end of the day, there's no Emmanuel Quickley for RJ Barrett, whether Zion's ruled in or ruled out. No Jakob Poeltl for RJ Barrett. And that's a big deal because he's been fantastic on the glass, arguably the most consistent rebounder they've had, so I think it's all systems go for Barrett. Obviously, again, the field is going to pivot to Brandon Ingram if Zion is ruled out. So, and it's something that we talk about a lot. the obvious play you would like in your mind is like, okay, I'm going to pivot to Brandon Ingram with the field. That's what your mind tells you. But also, your mind was like originally on RJ Barrett for a reason. And it's not like that reason changed. And now with the field gravitating towards one guy, you'll get the other guy at lower ownership. So I think firmly remains to be like an elite option if you want to stay there. I would say the only problem is if the Clippers continue to play the way the Clippers have played.
Sure.
I don't know how competitive the game will be, right? Because they're just scoring so many points, and the Raptors are not. They scored 100 points against Memphis.
Right.
Like, Memphis, like the team with 7 active players every night. So just throwing that caveat out there. I prefer Ingram, but there's an obvious pivot there to RJ Barrett.
Did Bogdan get a downgrade for you now that Trae Young's in, or is he still locked in for the minutes for you?
Yeah, I'm not paying 64. Especially like Miller 63, Middleton 63, Tim Hardaway 57. I feel like any one of those guys who all have multi-position eligibility would be preferred options to Bogdan.
Do you prefer Tim Hardaway Jr. now over Brandon Miller Middleton with Kyrie Irving out?
How about this, John? I think Tim Hardaway is better per dollar play than Luka.
Okay.
I know that's crazy, and you obviously
very crazy, yeah, but I hear you.
But I think, again, he fits the bill in your you could pair him with Luka. That's no problem. Like, sure. He correlates obviously well. He is a spot up 3-point shooter. Luka has a lot of triple doubles and double doubles on his ledger. So like they correlate. I'm also just saying Tim Hardaway has 30 actual scoring upside as well. Yeah. And if he makes shots against Atlanta, he's made a bunch of threes lately, 5 of his last 6 games where he's made 3 or more threes. I like Tim Hardaway, shooting guard, small forward, quite a bit tonight. And don't really care who knows it.
Okay. Again, nothing to take away from those other guys, but I do think the value is there. You do have Karis LeVert here at $5,600. Obviously, he's been pretty solid there. Trae Young will be on a minutes restriction tonight per Coach Snyder. So,
yeah, okay.
So
his restriction is 35.
Yeah, we'll see what that means. That
yeah.
Is true. I do like LeVert down here. This kind of whole tier is kind of interesting. LeVert, Kennard, you have Strus. Even further down, Dylan Brooks, Murphy, Powell, Trent, all Conchar, all these value plays at shooting guard are in play for me tonight.
Yeah, I think LeVert is the super interesting contrarian one because you talked about it on the show this morning. Came back, played 28 minutes right off the bat. Like 28 minutes off the bat. We saw before the wrist injury initially, he was off his minutes restriction, 35 and 30 minutes in 2 games. The 30 minutes was capped because a blowout per usual in Cleveland games. Right. But in those games, like 7 straight 30-plus fantasy point games. So, yeah, I think Karis LeVert's really interesting, especially we're getting him at the cheapest price he's been in quite a while. Especially
cheapest he's been since the 3rd game of the year. He's been.
There was a stretch. I think there was a stretch in the middle of it, but
middle of December, he was 5,300. So,
but it's the cheapest he's been without Garland Mobley. Like that says a bunch. So, shocker to Prince.
You didn't miss much to Prince.
Yeah,
Trae Young in but limited. Zion questionable. Paul George questionable. Jabari Smith questionable. So, let me know your FanDuel questions. We'll get them answered for you here. And Andrew. Also, it's all right, guys. You're happy to go watch the rewind. You can catch up on the show. You get time. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. We do appreciate you though stopping in and hanging out with us here tonight. After the LeVert one, where do you? Again, I'm always a Norman Powell guy. Like I go to Norman Powell. Now there may not be even Paul George, but like Trey Murphy, Brooks, Trent, those guys. For you, do you rank them higher than Norm? Norm versus old team, as Cam the Man points out here.
I would probably, if we get Murphy, I'd assume the starting lineup would include Trey Murphy. Mm-hmm. If Zion were to sit, I'd rank Trey Murphy ahead of Norm. He's basically the same play as Gary Trent, in my opinion, with better eligibility if there's no Paul George. So they both space the floor, right? One of them's going to start, one of them's not. I would say Trent's going to start, Norm's not.
Yep.
Contra 4,400 is a good price. We don't know what's going to happen with Contra, like when there's a blowout. He did play 27 minutes in that chart in the Chicago game, so it seems like his role. They just have to play these guys,
Yeah.
right? Because they just have a depleted roster. So I think they're all kind of in play.
Yeah, I'm with you. Again, when you're trying to pay up for Luka tonight, you can play 4 of these guys, right, on
Yes.
DraftKings tonight. So get the value there. Dwayne liking our Harden Westbrook points. I'm with you. I think you can get some nice, mid-tier combo plays tonight, not having to spend all the way up for Luka. But I don't think Luka Chalk will be a problem. Just to say that, I think I know the Embiid trap got people last night, but hard for me to think that Luka doesn't come through in this matchup against Atlanta. Small forward position, Kawhi 86. We've talked Scotty Barnes already. A lot of these guys we've talked about. So Kawhi's the top guy. The mid tiers where we see some new faces: Jalen Williams, Franz Wagner, Vince Williams here.
Yeah, Kawhi second on the team in fantasy points per minute and usage rate. Sans Paul George, obvious. Good.
I got the Kawhi over first quarter points tonight at 7.5. And that was before the Paul George news.
I was going to play it, and it was going to be in my article, and then I saw you had it. So you had the Barrett rebounds.
Yeah. So I was talking about, I just bet it out. I just bet it individually.
Okay, yeah. I saw the 7.5, and then I
did Barrett rebounds and
I forget what else I don't know where I saw 7.5, but I saw that too, and I was like, And I saw he's the last like 10 games.
Whole first quarter.
Played the whole last like.
That's why I did it. He plays the whole first quarter. So,
definitely like Kawhi.
I did Grayson Allen threes. That's what it was. Grayson Allen threes.
Yeah.
RJ Barrett rebounds. I actually gave 3 plays out today. I got to remember what the third one was.
Franz is a solid play. The minutes he's just lost out on the 2 games since being back on due to blowouts. Game shouldn't be a blowout, but it is the National Blowout Association month of the year. Like it right? It is that time of the year.
Wendell Carter rebounds.
Wendell Carter rebounds. That's a good one. J-Dub, really solid play. Again, another guy who's kind of lost out minutes due to back-to-backs and blowouts, but in the games that were competitive, 36, 37, 33, 35, 33 minutes, that's more what Jalen Williams has like fallen into. This is one of the best game environments on the board. Should be a really fun Western Conference preview. So like him, and then Vince Williams just been flat out great. I don't know what else to say. Career high 25 last game. He's been really good peripherally as well. I'm gonna keep saying it, and I'm gonna say it every show. He's gonna have like bad shooting nights because he's shooting out of his mind, but while he's shooting this way, like keep going back to the hot hand, and
he's locked into the minutes, and he also like gives you other things. He's not just the scorer. So when he does have sort of the off shooting night, like he did, say here against Minnesota, 10 points, he still gave you 34 fantasy points. And at 6,500, that's good enough. So obviously there's been a ceiling. Eric Gordon available tonight. So just those of you who are looking at the rotation for Phoenix, I don't think we were playing Eric Gordon anyways, but he's going to be active tonight. Below is a lot of guys we've discussed already. Miller, Middleton, Hardaway. We're all fine there. Levert, we're in on. Anybody we haven't discussed down here? Neesmith, I guess. Sadiq Bey would be a couple of names. Herb Jones down here as well. Derek Jones Jr. Anybody for you down here?
Nothing really new, I guess. Like you mentioned, Dylan Brooks at shooting guard.
Yeah.
Didn't really comment on it, but he's fine, especially if Jabari's out. Neesmith has been really good the last 2 games. We know that he's going to be on the floor because they need him to defend the opponent's best player. Who that best player is, he'll guard all of them, I'm sure. I'm sure at separate times you'll see Neesmith full court press on one of Durant, Beal, or Booker, or all of them at once because he's psycho. You did mention the Herb price, 4,600. If he can stay out of foul trouble and there's no Zion, like he's obvious, like crazy person defensively, and he can change a game. And we saw it, a little bit of what Herb Jones can do. Optimizers love Bradley Beal. It's Houston, right? I mean, it's in Indiana. Like, the Indiana matchup is really appealing. Maybe it's going to be a Bradley Beal night tonight. 6,900 is a good price.
I
Nice.
was gonna say under 7K for him. He's fine. Again, 43 fantasy points, a good ceiling for him against Dallas there. You're just getting a lot more middling performances out of him where you've seen ceilings. And, we're also looking at some other point guards on tonight's slate that we kind of like in maybe better situations based on who's going to be in or out. But I have nothing against playing a Bradley Beal tonight if you want to get him in your lineups. We like Booker, we like Durant, we like Beal. I think you can play any three of them and get that game stack going with Indiana. It's a high game total, it's close spread. So, Anthony, I saw your comments obviously on the show this morning. If you're in on Beal, I'm not out on Beal, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not either. He's just like, when you're looking at the totem pole of priority, he has clearly been third, right? That's just what it comes down to.
Agreed. Anybody else that's small forward for you? Do you think we see Cam Whitmore get any run? I know they gave Jeff Green the minutes with Jabari out the other day.
I would love to see Cam Whitmore play more, but looks like it's going to be Whit less minutes without Jabari Smith tonight, John, because they're going to go to Jeff Green.
As it is a great matchup for Simons. Unfortunately, they didn't put it on the main slate. You go play some showdown. Sean Mitchell's got a showdown playbook out for everybody over at Fantasy Alarm for tonight's Portland San Antonio matchup. They didn't give it to us. I wish they did. I would love to get some Simons here. I would love to play Victor Wembanyama tonight against the Portland Trailblazers. Yep. Can't do it on the main slate. It's sad.
Possibly no Brogdon in that game too. So
would have been a fantastic fun time for all of our lineups there, getting that late night matchup, but we don't have it. Power forward, Giannis is here off back-to-back 80 fantasy point games. Kevin Durant's gone for 40 actual in 2 of the last 3, so we know where those guys stand. As we say all the time, I'm not going to ever tell you not to play a Giannis, a Luka, an Embiid, a Jokic. They're all elite. They all can break slates. They all have infinite ceilings. Giannis just did this against this same team here. So if you want to go back to the well and save a little money on Luka tonight, where Luka's the chalk, go for it, man. No arguments for me.
Yeah, I mean, he has the most triple doubles he's had in any month of his career. They're dancing on graves after their head coach was just fired and acting surprised. I mean, the vibes are apparently super high in Milwaukee after not being very high.
Giannis' quotes are hilarious. I invited him to my wedding. We were friends. We talked all the time. It's like, oh, reports were that you were tired of him and got him fired.
Right. Yeah, and the night before you were drawing up plays you took the clipboard and were drawing up plays in timeout instead of Adrian Griffin. Like, bro, let's be real. Just, hey, you wanted Doc Rivers, you wanted a head coach, just say it. It's okay. You're a very lovable guy. Like, people love Giannis, and this is not a good look. But it doesn't matter in fantasy. If you want to go back to him, there's likely 80 in your future.
Sure. Mid-tier guys for you. Triple J is down here. Siakam, Jalen Johnson. We've talked Jalen Williams already. Thoughts on the 7K tier?
7K tier is interesting. As long as Bridges isn't traded mid-game, he's been. I mean, dude, the minutes for Miles Bridges are just insane. 41, 40, 40, 39 minutes last 4 games. That's coincided with 41, 40, 48, 37 fantasy points. He's just going to play big minutes, and we know Houston's struggles on the road has been very evident. So maybe Charlotte can keep this game a little bit more competitive. We called out the Siakam price tag yesterday. We were very adamant that it was too cheap. We are very adamant that it's still too cheap. 7,500 coming off the triple-double. And that's not just because he's coming off a triple-double. It's just too cheap. Like, you said it perfectly, I think, on the podcast today. Like, he was giving us 35 in 2 of the 3 games, which was considered, which is solid at his price tag, but that was considered a bad game because he used to be 8K because that's the type of player he is.
Right.
And now he's in a better offensive system, faster pace, didn't have practices, and then got a practice, and they were like, hey, we're going to put you on the ball. And this is what happens when you put Pascal Siakam on the ball. These are peripheral stats to why he was 10K to start the year, right? Like, we've seen this from Siakam a lot. So 7,500 is simply too cheap for him once again.
Need to get Halliburton healthy because those two playing together, I think, will really elevate everyone's overall production there. Moving our way down. After that, it dumps off pretty quickly. There's obviously a lot of guys out here. Value for the power forward position. We talked a couple of these guys already. You mentioned Bay, mentioned Neesmith. If Aldama's in, could be some looks there. We know Herb Jones is down here. Gigi Jackson at 4,100 had a pretty good day the other day, 26 minutes for him. I think Aldama needs to be out probably for his kind of ceiling to happen. I'm always in on Georges Niang. He's $3,900 here. Power forward, there really wasn't a ton once you got off the top couple guys.
Just did the ownership update, and I'm glad I did because it brings us to the first So Dallas, we're here at power forward. Dallas has 3 guys listed power forward eligible.
Grant Williams.
Grant Williams is 36% projected owned.
I don't really know about that.
So here's why I think it wasn't just Kyrie being rolled out. It was also Maxi Kleber.
Sure, that's fair. That's fair.
And Kleber has played 21, 26, 22 minutes in the last 3 games. They're also without Dwight Powell.
Yeah.
So as it stands, Grant Williams is your potential backup center, right? Is that or direction that they would go? I mean,
he just kind of sucks.
He hasn't been great.
He hasn't been good.
I'm not saying that I am actively playing Grant Williams. It was just more
he's a 3,400 possible starter, right?
With Luka. If you're playing, if you want to get to Luka or Giannis, right? This is a direction you go. Or the $4,200 Josh Green that's here at 30% rostership, who, if you remember, they said, when they're fully healthy, it's going to be Kyrie, Exum, and Luka starting. And then they're like, actually, Exum, you're going to come off the bench. And Josh Green, you're back in the starting lineup. And now Josh Green's playing 30-plus minutes. Very low floor. Very, very low floor. Don't like the 4,200 all that much. But he's playing 30 minutes a night. And then Derek Jones is 15%. He's 4,400.
Yeah.
He's probably been the worst of the 3 lately, at least. But he probably has the highest ceiling
there for the run there.
That's the tricky part, right? He has the highest ceiling, but he's been the worst production-wise lately. Sure. Is that going to change? If you had to rank these 3 Dallas, since we're here, power forwards, and actually throw Georges in there, how would you rank them?
It's probably Green, Jones, Williams. I put Niang ahead of Williams.
And Niang, the comments from JB Bickerstaff, John, were he liked the small ball lineup with Niang, so I think there's no reason to think we're not going to see it again.
Yeah.
They're just going to keep running back to it, especially when Damian Jones is their backup center. Didn't play a single minute in the second half until blowout run. It was we're just going to not do that again and play Georges Niang at the backup 5.
Would you rather play 40% Luka or 10% Giannis tonight?
I mean, I think you know where I'm going. Look, I'm not saying you can't. I think Luka's perfectly fine. Great play.
Yep.
Ooh, news here.
Jabari out, Jayshawn Tate in for tonight.
Bless up, John. Bless up. Because I took a PRA today on one center in Houston.
Alperen Sengun?
I sure did. But I mean, I think the Dallas value is going to be a little tricky situation. My answer is Giannis to your question. I would rather play Giannis.
10% Giannis over a 40% Luka. I think I would probably do the same.
Yeah, I mean, especially again, I'm telling you,
you like the point guard position too. There's more guards there.
Yes, and things could obviously get even more open if Paul George is ruled out, because that puts Harden on the table and McCollum potentially, and now Van Vliet's playing without Jabari. It's a really, really strong position.
Agreed. Moving on over to center here, Alperen Sengun, $8,600. Definitely our guy. He's cover of the show. We've been targeting Charlotte now for over a decade. That's not even really a joke. I think we've been doing it that long at this point. So, with centers, they just never been able to really bring in a good center to play defense. Sengun's been a monster lately. He's $8,600.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say. It's Alperen Sengun day, right? He gets the bump on the Reddit podcast for today. He's the cover of the show. He now gets to play without Tari Eason and Jabari Smith coming off 57 QR code 69. So like there's a lot of things to like about Sengun. I took the PRA at 41.5 today. Completely comfortable with that number because he's just the hub. 4 straight double doubles, 3 straight games of 24 plus points. He was already like my per dollar favorite play of the day, and that really hasn't. And this is another reason. Like you could play Lucas Sengun. That's a popular approach today, but Sengun, Harden, McCollum could be really like just maybe even getting like Ingram in that lineup now that you have the Dallas value and now you have like all this stuff. So Sengun's a lock and load play for me and just kind of moving on from there.
Yeah, for sure. Jared Allen's right below him. No reason if you need to save a little cash, you can definitely go to Jared Allen. He has dominated this matchup against Milwaukee, averaging almost 50 fantasy points in the 3 meetings so far this season. Definitely a guy that we are high on, for the top 2 guys there. And then after that, for me, like Wendell Carter, for me, I liked as a little plug-in at $5,700. Nick Richards, the other side of the Sengun matchup at 52. I didn't really have much else. I threw Larry Nance in there as a value play at $3,900, but there wasn't many other centers I was, really jonesing the play here tonight.
So I think your Larry Nance call is incredibly interesting because they started Larry Nance in the second half the other day over Valanciunas. Not an injury, just straight up started him. And then head coach Willie Green came out and was like, yeah, so like we're going to just keep the lineup fluid. And we're going to keep the lineup fluid a little bit. And like there's a potential to look at everything. And that's clearly Valanciunas Nance. The Larry Nance lineup with the other 4 has been like one of the best net rating lineups in the NBA.
Yeah.
OKC, like, how is Valanciunas going to stay on the floor against Chet? Right? Like, they're going to need an athletic Larry Nance on the floor to. Yeah. Dude, Chet stands on the perimeter and is like one of the only centers in the league that like cuts to the basket like every possession, like cutting, like not just pick and rolling. He is actively just off ball cutting, and that's not what Valanciunas can guard. Like right. Valanciunas cannot be that active. And like there's obviously ways on other, like put him on Lou Dort or something, but that's such a mismatch. And Lou Dort is going to float around the perimeter and just take that. I think this could be ceiling minute Larry Nance game. Like not 30.
We got 26 minutes out of him against Dallas here, and he went for 33 fantasy points. So
I think that's the minutes. I think that's a realistic minute approach. He played 24 against OKC the first time they played. So
25 fantasy points in that game, 9-7, 2-2. Listen, I got him plugged in just because he's cheap. And there's not many value guys over on FanDuel. He's even power forward eligible, so you can utilize that to your advantage there as well. Any other questions, guys? Feel free to throw them in the chat. If you haven't already liked today's show, do that as well. You can subscribe to the channel, like the channel, help us boost out what we do here, and can always do more for you all with the support. Let's build a lineup. What do we got?
Sengun. That's all I got.
Are we double centering Sengun Nance?
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Sengun Nance. Do we go Giannis over to Luka?
Look. It's all going to depend. Building a lineup right now is super tough only because I really want to play James Harden and like McCollum. And you can, but like obviously those plays become infinitely better if people are ruled out, right? So
let's see. Harden's there, 46.
Oh my God. You like have to play like Grant Williams in this lineup.
I don't have to do anything. All right. Let's see. Niang.
I mean, like if Aldama's ruled out, Gigi Jackson, as you mentioned, would be a play. Hey, 38 minutes of Jeff Green or
Uncle Hef?
I mean, I assume he's similar. I know Jayshawn Tate didn't play, so like we're gonna get that.
There we go. There's our non-Giannis, our non-Luka.
Oh my god.
Harden, Powell, Jones, Giannis, Sengun, Nembhard, Niang, Nance. Who says no?
Washington.
Andrew says we got to get Siakam in there. Listen, I agree. I love Siakam. I think it's a great price point for him here tonight. Obviously, if you're fitting an 11K player, you got to get a little gross with it. We are jamming into 8K guys. So you throw 2 8K guys, you got to find ways to fit them in the lineup here tonight. If we were obviously to go a bit more fair and balanced, we could definitely make a pretty strong lineup. Let's see. We take Giannis out and went to Siakam here. That would still give us 35 to play with. Let's see. We could get McCollum in here. 1,500 still.
Pivot off Norm to like Brandon Miller.
Yeah, 63, Brandon Miller, yeah. Fair and balanced build for everybody there.
Sheesh.
It's not bad.
I like that.
It's not bad. Harden, Miller, Jones, Siakam, Sengun, McCollum, Niang, and Nance.
Bro. See this. So like this is why I was like, I'm really leaning on the side of more fair and balanced than spend up tonight, because you just put 4 legitimate options for 50 fantasy points. We've seen Brandon Miller approach 50 lately. We know Derek Jones has a ceiling. We know Georgia is going to play mid-20s minutes in a competitive game, and Larry Nance has a ceiling type. Like, this is why I think Luka lines are pairing like with Grant, like the Grant Williams of the world, where like it's just a super risky proposition in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. It's a couple of I submitted it. There you go. Go Andrew, you win the million. Good luck to you here, sir. Just give us a shout out when you do it. Tag us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter if you're not already doing so at @the_real_grande, at JMPemba777 for myself. If you're not already a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, here's our QR code. You can scan that right now. You get our monthly package, or you can go annually, get a 40% off on the annual subscription there. FantasyAlarm.com/win. Our fantasy baseball draft guide is also live. So if you're in on fantasy baseball, becoming a member of the All-Pro team, you get access to our best ball cheat sheet, our regular draft cheat sheet, and all of the articles and rankings that are and projections that are involved in the fantasy baseball draft guide are included with the All-Pro subscription, along with access to our NBA, NHL, MMA, PGA, NASCAR, you name it. We cover it, DFS content and seasonal content, and access to our premium Discord. So if you're not already a member of the Fantasy Alarm family, I don't know what you're waiting for. Scan that QR code or go to FantasyAlarm.com/win. James and I, of course, will be back on Monday. Find us on Twitter. Get us on in the Discord. Good luck, everybody, with your lineups tonight. We'll talk to you later.